Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline.
And Adam.
For Pixie Dust PhD. We've been lucky enough to hit up the theme parks pretty regularly the past year or so. Of course, we were down in Disney World for an extended period of time in September 2021. Then we had 3 days in the Disneyland parks in January of 2022. And then we went back to Disney World just for one day, just for a little fun trip in February. Across those 3 trips, of course, there was a lot of magical moments and some, not so magical moments. In today's video, we'll discuss some of the least magical moments across our vacations. Of course, we still had a good time, but I think it's fun to share our experiences and also just set correct expectations that it's not going to be 100% perfect every single day.
Yeah, like life, things are going to happen, and it's all about how you roll with it.
If you want to hear about our least magical moments, stay tuned. I think my list is probably longer than Adam's. I spend a little bit more time reflecting on things than he does, so it'll be a Jacqueline heavy video, but that's okay.
I'm sure this will bring back some memories, though, and I'm sure I'll have an opinion or two to share.
Yeah, so starting off, and this really wasn't that big of a deal, but I think 3 times the wrong luggage was brought to our room. So basically, when we changed rooms, we would move hotels, store our stuff at the new hotel that we were checking into, go to the parks. Once we were told our room was ready, we would come back, and then from our room, we would call bell services and be like, hey, we're here, we've got a room, can we have our bags? And they would bring up a luggage cart, and it just absolutely was not our bags.
Yeah, I remember that, it happened on way too many occasions. I think, they just could not find our luggage, even though it was tagged and it was named, and it's pretty eye-rolling.
Yeah, it's, again, not the worst thing. It just takes, you have to send them back down. They have to bring the right cart up, so it's another 20 minutes of your day or whatever, and obviously, wasted effort on their part. And I guess I don't really understand why the system doesn't work better. But, it was okay in the end. Next for me, there was one morning when our sink in the kitchenette of our Bay Lake Tower room just, burped up a bunch of dirt for no apparent, we hadn't even been using it. There was no apparent reason why this would have happened. So, plumbing-wise, I don't know what's going on there. That was obviously inconvenient, but not the primary reason I found it not the most magical. So we left for the theme parks that morning. We stopped by the front desk and let them know, there's a bunch of dirt in our sink for reasons we don't understand. Can you send maintenance? They were like, oh yeah, of course, right away, blah, blah, blah. We went to a theme park. We came back 6 hours later, and it still hadn't been taken care of. So we had to go back down to the front desk and re-complain, which is not my favorite thing to do.
It was fixed, however.
Eventually.
Yeah. But the fact is that it seems like, a sink that's burping up dirt seems like kind of a plumbing emergency where you should get someone on that.
Yeah, I don't know about emergency, but I just couldn't believe 6 hours and nothing. And then when we went back down, it was a different cast member at this point. They acted like there wasn't even a note, nothing happened when we went in the morning to tell them about it. So I think that may have been the case, which is, not so magical.
Unlike this dog. Yeah, no, that definitely was very frustrating to experience in terms of hospitality-wise, and so far, it just did not start our day off on the right foot.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And similarly, on a hospitality note, when we were over in Boardwalk, we did do a little bit of laundry, and so since we stay in studios, you have to use the laundry room. There's not laundry in your actual villa, which is fine. And we went over to use it, and supposedly one washer was free. We only had one load to do. Perfect. So we load our stuff in. I brought soap from home because I have really sensitive skin. So there's I can only use some kinds of detergent. So we put the detergent in, and it just doesn't work. And there's nothing indicating it shouldn't work. The lights are on. Someone else was in there, thankfully. So we asked them hey, when you did your load, what happened? She was like, yeah, I just closed it and it let me pick a setting and then it worked. And that was not happening. So again, we went to the front desk. Adam went to the front desk and complained. And essentially all I wanted out of that was for the cast member to say, oh yeah, we'll make sure maintenance knows and fixes it. I obviously wouldn't expect them to come right away, but within the next day or so. And also in the interim, I think they should have put a sign on the freaking washer that said out of service, because otherwise people are going to continue to try to use it and it doesn't work. And the cast member was very just oh, I'm sorry. That was it.
Again, not what you want.
Yeah, the next day there was an email form that I had received, and I ended up complaining to the manager, and they called and made sure everything was okay or whatever, but
I did call. Remember that? Yeah.
I just feel like it's not that hard to say, oh yeah, we'll make sure maintenance gets on it. Like that's what, I don't know, man. It was frustrating.
Yeah. It's not like Goofy was at the front desk or anything.
Right. Additionally, at our boardwalk room, we were facing the pool. So we booked a standard view room, so that may have been an upgrade to like a pool/garden view. I honestly don't know. But the point is we were facing the pool, and there's a fence along the pool. And every morning at like 7 a.m., they would do some light maintenance on the fence, including hammering and other, it wasn't major construction, but you know, it was loud and it was 7 a.m. And I understand that 7 a.m. is like the least hot part of the day for a normal work day, and they probably want to go do their outside difficult maintenance during that. But so when we were there, Epcot wasn't opening till like 10 or 11. I don't remember the exact time, but late. And then to have the fence be worked on at 7 a.m. when like maybe we could have slept in was not great.
Yeah, I would just definitely be aware of any construction or updates and take that into consideration when you're booking a hotel or stay, just in general, right? Or, you know, even if you're like a renter and looking at apartments and you're like, okay, are there going to be tons of construction happening over the next, I don't know, however long. It just really ruins the ambiance and your ability to sleep in on vacation, which is doubly frustrating.
Yeah, well, and when they're doing major construction, there always are warnings on the booking pages, whether that's DVC or hotels. But because I think these were just minor fixes to that fence, like we couldn't have known.
This is bad luck.
Yeah. And also I just really like sleeping, so it was a bummer for me.
Yeah.
All right, moving away from hotels and hospitality and over to theme parks, Slinky Dog Dash was down a lot. And some of this was weather related. We were there in September 2021, so it is a rainy season, and I get that it's an outdoor ride. But there, at least half the time when it was down, it was not obviously related to weather. So even just being able to get in line to try to go on Slinky Dog was very challenging. I'm glad we were there as long as we were, because honestly, if it had been a shorter trip, I don't know that we would have had the opportunity to even try to get on Slinky Dog.
Yeah, it was a very temperamental ride. The slightest, hiccup would force it to close down. Sometimes they'd evacuate the line, and we're just kind of going around our day in Hollywood Studios, and you're just like, oh, Slinky Dog's short wait. Oh no, it's because it just went down.
Yeah. And also on this trip, we park hopped a lot. I think literally every day, if not multiple times per day. And we did have a rental car. And I found it really frustrating that when we would go to our second park later in the day, so 3, 4, 5 p.m. sometimes, the cast members would force us to park like as far away as possible in the very back lot. And there were no trams, so then we would have to walk up to the front of the theme park. And on that walk, without fail, every time, there were just a ton of open spots from people who came in the morning and already left. And in past trips, when we have a rental car, we've always sort of been able to just like press our luck, and they'll let us try to go find a much closer spot, and it's not been a problem. And they were really strict about it this time. And especially without the trams, like, oh man, it was such a like slap in the face almost to have to walk past all of those empty spots at like 5 p.m. It's so freaking hot in September. It was very unfortunate.
Yeah, I really don't understand. I guess they just want to have, a time associated with certain parking spaces. But, geez, I mean, there's so many open spaces, and, I'm trying to, minimize that time in the sun. I know Orlando, September, it's not going to happen. But, the walk out to the parking lot is definitely the hottest part of your trip, because there's no kiosk or gift shop you can duck into for shade or air conditioning. It's just hot asphalt.
Yeah.
So man, that sucks. I would love to be able to park closer, especially during park hopping times. Give us some flexibility, Disney.
I totally understand in the mornings that like they're filling lots very precisely, happy to listen, but then once it's 4, 5, 6 p.m. like let it be my fault if I don't remember where my car is. All right, moving over to Disneyland, easily the most frustrating part of that whole trip, and it was very not magical, was our first park morning. We went and we scanned into the park, and then we bought Genie Plus. And specifically, Adam bought Genie Plus for both of us and my best friend, so all 3 of us in one transaction. Genie Plus loaded to my profile and to Adam's profile, and it did not load to my best friend's profile. We ended up having to speak to 3 different cast members, all guest relations cast members, by the way, before it got fixed. And then once it was fixed, what had happened was I had booked a Lightning Lane return time for Adam and I at Mission Breakout. And that's how I learned that my best friend wasn't synced up to us. So we already had a lightning lane. So then once it was supposedly fixed at guest relations finally, I really wanted to just like either cancel ours and rebook the 3 of us together, or there's a feature where you can like add a guest to an existing lightning lane reservation. And I wanted to do that. And the cast member at guest relations was so terse and so grumpy, and she clearly just wanted us gone and like had no understanding of why I may want to check that lightning lane was actually working on my best friend's profile. So it did end up working out just fine, but the whole interaction was like very sour, I would say. She seemed really annoyed with us the entire time, and like this obviously wasn't our fault. And then on top of that, I mean, all of this took like 20 minutes and it was like precious rope drop time. So we lost a huge amount of space and standing in rope drop to go do web slinger. So it also delayed the rest of our day.
Yeah, it definitely was the wrong foot to start our day on, that's for sure. That definitely ranked as one of my least magical moments. Because, you know, a bunch of our other least magical moments were kind of like hospitality, hotel related stuff. But like when it comes to parks, you have a very high standard of what to expect in terms of the Disney magical experience. Like that's where they put all their energies, especially with guest relations. I don't know, it was really frustrating because I feel like that normally they get a lot of folks who aren't very tech savvy asking really dumb questions, and we had an actual bug that required an actual fix, and they're literally saying, have you tried unplugging it, plugging back in, like the real basic crap, which was kind of, and then us like dismissing like, no, it's not that. You know, it was just very poor communication on their end, and poor effort, I'd say.
Yeah, and like Adam said, I think most of the rest of the least magical moments are just like annoyances, but whatever. Like this was not only the start of our day, it was the start of our entire Disneyland in-park experience. It was our first day in the parks, and it was like such a bad note. And I've never, ever interacted with a guest relations cast member who was that uninterested in speaking to me.
Maybe they just hate Genie Plus as much as we do.
They probably do. I'm sure they come up to these bugs and it's like really annoying for them too, but it was not good. It was really like, I was really upset about the way that went down. It was like the antithesis of Disney.
Not magical, huh?
Not magical. And the last one I had considered was our last day at Disneyland. The last thing we did related to Disney was we went and got a late dinner at GCH Craftsman Bar and Grill. And everything like started out fine, and we ordered and we got our food and drinks and it was good. But then like our waiter just disappeared, and he didn't assign our table to anybody else. And it was this big dramatic thing. He came back eventually, like, gosh, maybe an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
It was so hard to get our check because no one was taking care of us. But so when he finally came back and explained, I guess what had happened was a family had left, but they left a backpack. So I don't know, Disney security acted like it was a TSA threat, and they came and searched the backpack with gloves and everything, and then our waiter said he had to go give like witness statement to security or police or something. I don't know, it was all just such a kerfuffle, and we're just sitting here like trying to pay for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that was not a fun time at all.
No.
Kind of ridiculous though. Like, yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. I totally understand that things come up, but then it seems pretty easy that the waiter should either expressly pass their tables on to someone else working, or like the other people working should notice that person's gone for, you know, not more than like their 10-minute break. And we were literally like trying to wait people down. And they'd be like, oh, we'll go see where your waiter is. I'm like, can you just get me my check?
I'm going like this, like, check, please.
So yeah, it was just like, I mean, Disneyland as a whole was pretty great, but it was a bummer that it was just bookended by like pretty lame experiences to start and to end. But overall, like I said, we definitely still had fun. It's still like a really great time to go to the theme parks, and overall customer service is still super high compared to most other experiences, particularly in the United States of America.
I mean, we still love our Disney vacations, and the big reason why we go is because it delivers a lot of magical moments, but like with anything, there's going to be times where things don't go according to plan, and it's just kind of fun to kind of reflect on, you know, what those are, and you know, hopefully it's all funny in retrospect, and you know, let us know what some of your not as magical moments are in the comments, and we'll be sure to have some fun and maybe exchange even some more stories.
Yeah, definitely. And for sure, like 95+% of the cast members do absolutely make the magic. There are very, very few where you're probably just catching them at bad times, who maybe aren't doing the most magical job, but you know, like Adam said, you roll with the punches. There's some bumps along the way, but overall we still had a really great time, and I am looking forward to hearing some of your least magical moments. It's always fun to share stories.
Yeah, I would love to hear if you've ever had a sink burp up dirt at a Disney resort.
I still fundamentally don't understand what was even happening with that, but
It's not like we were on a low floor.
I know, but it got taken care of eventually.
How did the dirt get up? So many, it doesn't even matter.
What is with the dirt in the plumbing? That's a great question. It's probably another guest's fault, honestly. Someone probably put dirt down their sink and it got burped up in ours.
Yeah, maybe the person staying before, I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this reflection. I hope it didn't come off too complaining. We're just being realistic about, not any trip is never going to be 100% perfect. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Remember, you can ring that bell icon to receive updates whenever we upload new videos. And if you want to chat outside of YouTube, you can find me over on Twitter and Instagram at PixieDustPhD. We hope the rest of your day is magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.
Bye.